past haunts us all. Whether it be a person, place, or thing, we are reluctant to let go. We call to the dead out of desperation and intrigue, searching for answers about what lies behind the shadows. We are paranormal researchers. We are Necromancers. Hello, and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. I am your host, as always, Justin Brown, and this is episode 41 with Nicole Kobrowski of Westfield, Indiana. But before we bring her over, I want to introduce someone who's going to help me with the live stream tonight. It is your favorite, Missy Vastine. Say what's up, Misty. Or Missy, rather. Misty's her sister. She's probably going to kill me now. So we're going to get back to Missy here momentarily, but before we do that, we're going to introduce a paranormal researcher and author from Westfield, Indiana. Her name is Nicole Kobrowski. She is one of Indiana's most trusted and accomplished paranormal researchers. Since she was 13 years old, she has investigated haunted locations and interviewed hundreds of people about their experiences. She is the author of over a dozen books, including Paranormal, True Crime, History, and Romance. She is the co-owner of UnseenPress.com Incorporated and Paranormal Publishing Company and Ghost Tour Business. She has an accomplished career as a public speaker, appeared on countless television shows and in print and web publications. Currently, she continues to make appearances, write, and work in education. Nicole lives in Westfield, Indiana, as I said, with her husband, Michael, and their rescued kitty, Lila, who is sensitive to the supernatural. So, without further ado, what's up, Nicole? How are you doing this evening? I am doing just fine. I had to unmute you, and I just now noticed that. So we didn't hear Missy say hi back, but now we hear you. Sorry about that, Missy. We'll get back to you. But I'm good. I'm glad that you decided to join me on my podcast and talk paranormal with me. I usually have been booking paranormal researchers, but now I want to hear from people in the literary, industry. I want to hear people who are putting their stories in print or who are doing that, that thing to kind of get their angle, when it comes to their paranormal stories and how they put them out there. So you are the actual second author that I've had on here. I've had Mike Ricksecker. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Mike somewhere or another. But now I have Nicole on here. So your bio states 13 years old. Was that the time of your first experience, or is that when you first started to say, "Hey, I'm going to try to figure out what's going on"? Let us know more about if 13 is when you started investigating, or if that's when the whole story started for you.
Well, it's kind of yes to all of the above. When I was 13, we lived in an old house. The living room had been used as a one-room schoolhouse, and my sisters were older than I was, and they had claimed for years that there were paranormal goings-on in the house. And I thought for the most part they were just trying to scare me. Now, I loved, old scary movies. Loved them. I loved Hellraiser, all that kind of stuff too. But one day we came home from church on a Saturday because nobody wanted to get up on Sunday. I was sitting in that one-room schoolhouse that was now kind of a parlor family room sort of thing. And a white ball of light came down the stairs. And I shouldn't have been able to see that because there was a wall, but I saw it, and it dropped into a figure of a man with a cape. And this was kind of a description of one of the ghosts that my sisters had seen. And so my heart was pounding. I couldn't breathe. I was terrified. And somewhere really far away, I could hear my sister Mary in the next room. She just sounded very far away. And I asked her to come in. I finally was able to draw that breath. And she goes, "What do you want?" And I was like, "Well, could you come in?" And she flounced in and said, "What do you want?" And she's standing right next to this guy, and she can't see him. And as soon as I tried to say something else, he disappeared. And so she was freaking out and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I was just like, wow, there was just the realization that my sisters weren't lying to me. And I had just seen something that I totally couldn't understand. And in the 80s, you couldn't find stories about the paranormal, like true ones. You could find folklore, you could find Vlad the Impaler. The only one that I did find, and I lived in a small town anyway, was about the Borley Rectory in the UK, and that was fascinating. But ever since then, I was just trying to figure out at first, am I crazy or what have you? And I didn't see anything else in the house. I did hear quite a bit. And then when my sisters and I went back in 2004, at least one of my sisters, we actually saw we captured the figure of a man with a cape in a photograph.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
I have to ask, did you try to look into the history of the home? Did you try to investigate who it could have been as far as what you could have researched in the records?
We did. We'd actually bought the house from some German Baptist folks who had the land around it plus the house for a very long time, and we went past them because they were not the original landowners. We had actually traced it all the way back to a Civil War soldier that was given land by Andrew Jackson after I'm sorry, Revolutionary War. Soldier after Andrew Jackson gave it to him or something along those lines. And that would kind of fit with his cape. His cape looked to be kind of like one of those sort of capes, but we couldn't find a lot about the people themselves. And it was unfortunate because there was a fire that happened in the courthouse. And so a lot of the information was destroyed. So it was very difficult to find much more than that.
The only thing else I could think of maybe if your parents were collectors of antiques or had some item passed down or that they found that something was attached to. But other than that, you may be right about that. About the.
Well, I grew up with a lot of antiques, so I do believe that organic things hold vibrations of the past. I actually have a rocking chair that's sitting in the garage right now that's supposed to have an old lady attached to it.
Really?
I haven't seen her yet. I'm just trying to figure out where to put her in the house. But at any rate, my mother, she was very Catholic. She was like a zealot. There was only one ghost. It was the Holy One. Yet she had a priest come in and bless our house shortly after we moved in. Well, that priest ended up being sent away for pills and booze and all that kind of stuff. And then but it gets better. I got to see him again when I was a teenager. He was actually my religion teacher. And it was funny because this kid, Tommy, the priest had just said, hey, I'll talk to you guys about anything. It was his version of a sex ed class. And Tommy, he was the goofiest kid. He was like, hey, Father, are you a virgin? And he got very red-faced and left the room. Later, he was accused of trying to fondle some of the teenage boys. And on Mother's Day of, I believe it was 1987, he tied a plastic bag around his head and killed himself. And he's actually seen in the church that I grew up in.
Wow, I have no doubt that people see him. What is with Catholics, priests, and messing around with kids? I do not get it. It's like you can't escape those stories. They're so frequent. It's terrifying.
I mean, I was never hit on by a priest, but one of my classmates was. My sister, she used to hang around with one that was a bona fide put in jail pedophile, but she was the wrong sex. She was the wrong gender for that.
Right.
But I think some people are just messed up in the head, and then I think other people. I think that the Catholic Church just needs to let them be married to the church, but let them be married to other people too.
That's got to be the problem, right? The whole celibacy thing. It's not good. It's not healthy. We're not.
I don't think it's healthy, but I don't think it makes him a pedophile. If you're a pedophile, you're a pedophile, and yeah, you need to be in that prison like we were talking about earlier offline.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. But let's not get too much into that. We want to hear. That's a very fascinating encounter with what. No better way to call it than a ghost. Not many people get the privilege of seeing something that profound, and especially since your sister's seen it as well. One quick question before we shift gears and move on. Did you find it interesting that your sister saw it, they reported to you, but when you were actually seeing it, they were not seeing it with you? Did you find that interesting?
I did, but I don't know if they have the power to just be there for me or anybody else.
Hmm.
I mean, there's been a lot of times in my life where people have seen things that I have and other people haven't. We had a really good instance of that in a graveyard on one of our tours.
Right. See, the science part of me is saying, well, if there's something optical that you could see, you know, using the optics of your eyes, everyone should see it, right? It's comprised of light. Everybody should be able to see it. But since you're the only one seeing it, it almost is like it's a psychic, you know, sensory, reception of the image, of the vision of that apparition. And that's fascinating to me that people can experience these things when it's not actually there physically. It's almost like a psychic apparition. I'm guessing that what it could be that, but it's up to debate. We really don't know, but that doesn't stop humans from asking questions about things they probably can't possibly know in their lifetime. But here we are, still trying to figure it out, telling our stories, trying to make sense of it all. So you grew up in this house, you've had that encounter. I'm going to guess that you were hooked after that, and that sent you down the path of where you are now. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's
So,
correct.
so kind of take us through high school into college. If you went to college, I'm going to assume that you did, and kind of elaborate on how your career landed in, writing, and how it kind of led you into the whole paranormal research field.
Well, that was right. That was right in the middle of junior high. So you had three teenage girls in that house. So I'm sure that some of the activity that was in there was poltergeist related, and it was just ripe because we had so much energy going on. And um, my my childhood was not ideal, and so there was some negative juju going on in there too. And so I'm
Hmm.
sure that there was a piece of that in there, and I'm sure that the pedophile priest fed on that. But at any rate, I did go to a Catholic school, so we didn't really, talk about that kind of thing. But and then when I was in high school, I stayed with my grandmother for a year because I went to a Catholic high school for part of the time then. And I ended up staying with a classmate. And the first day that I got into her house, her mother was talking about her murdered son, which had happened like 6 years ago, prior to that. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm like totally scared stiff just off the story alone. And my girlfriend, she's like, oh, it's all good, and then I find out right before I'm going to bed that I'm sleeping in his bed that he was sleeping in the night he was killed, with the same furniture that was in his apartment.
Wow.
And I was a little terrified. So I get in the bed. I have the nerve to shut off the light, and I'm not even kidding you. Covers jerked off twice, and
Oh
I was in the
no.
fetal position for most of the evening. And so the next morning, I got up and I told my girlfriend. She'd be like, "Oh, that's no big deal. George would probably like having you in his bed. He like, he was good with girls. He'd be cool with that." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not." She's like, "Don't worry about it." But so
Don't
her
worry
house
about it.
yeah, so her house was haunted, and I was thinking, great, I've gone from one haunted house to another. But I got very curious about it because he was fairly young when he died. And then of course, being a teenager, we used Ouija boards and all that kind of stuff. And then I didn't get super serious about it until after I had gone to college, stopped, gotten married, gotten divorced. I moved to Germany, and then I was really kind of serious about it there because it was so old. Everything was so old in Nuremberg where I lived. It just couldn't help but be haunted. But what I found was, and it's still that way, the German people don't want to talk about stuff like that. They don't
Hmm.
like it. And so, I didn't get to do a lot of investigations. But then when my husband and I moved back here, we both have day jobs. But I was like, I'd been writing in Germany, and actually before that, the first thing I ever got published was in the Anderson Herald, and it was A Date from Hell. Had nothing to do with the paranormal, but yeah, it was a date from hell. It was their lead story for that day too, so it tells you something. But anyway, I had been writing it's whatever I could get published at that point, and it was before all of the online publishing happened and self-publishing, and you had to go to the traditional route. And finally, when we moved back to Indiana, we had more options by that time, and so I was like, for that. the effort that I put into the books, and for the royalties that I got off the books, I can do all this myself and do it better, have better control. And I don't mean that in a horrible way, but do it the way that I want to do it, the way that, everybody needs a good editor.
Right.
Always need a good editor. But, for the most part, I don't have to completely change a story around to suit somebody.
Right.
So, so that's how I got into publishing and writing. And then I was like, screw this. Everybody's got a ghost tour. Let's do ghost tours. Everybody's got, a major, we've gone on all these tours in all these different places. Why can't we have one in Indianapolis? And so that's how that got started. And it's like, yeah, I can wrap my books in with that. So it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's really cool that you were able to find some creative outlet for not only your experiences, but your passion for stories, for, the mysterious nature of reality and consciousness and life after death. I mean, all that stuff is deeply interesting, and so many people over time has been intrigued and wanting to get answers. Is there life after death? Is there such thing as a soul? Is there a God? All that type of stuff. I mean, it's never going to stop. People are going to always wonder, and I get asked all the time, if you think in our lifetime would we ever find 100% proof of ghosts and life after death and so on and so forth. And I always tell them, it's like, well, unless they do something like the movie Flatliners, no.
I agree with that. So this is what I tell everybody. I have a very common sense approach to well, my husband and I have a common sense approach to our investigations, but we just, the people that it's happening to have to get involved. And when people come up to me at author fairs and other events, it's like, you're getting my flavor. You may not agree with my flavor. You may not even agree that there are such things, but I believe that there's too many things going on. And I have had that question that you get. And it's like, I don't know, because, I believe what I've seen. Other people believe what they've seen and experienced. But until, something that everybody thinks is viable comes along, unless you can recreate it for the scientists, and then the scientists get on board, that's their realm. Nobody's going to believe or buy into it as a collective whole.
Mm-hmm. Because science is pretty much dictating what reality is for us in our culture right now, and it's becoming global most everywhere. And that's why I'm trying. These last 5 years, it's been very daunting with my limited resources and money and time to apply science correctly and fairly to the paranormal research. Let's just face it, you need particle accelerators, you need trillions of dollars to do all this stuff, and I don't got it, and no one wants to give it to me. So here we are. We're left to do what we can, but I mean, people have experiences. People experiences the craziest stuff. I have people like you and others come on the show, and they just tell me the craziest stuff. And you look into their eyes, they're not lying. They believe every second and everything that they tell you is true. Someone right next to them seeing the exact same thing. That there's something out there, something's going on. But what it is, you just can't be for sure. And I kind of love that. It would take a lot of the, sexiness out of it if scientists come along and said, oh, it's this and that, and let's crush all the the coolness out of it and the intrigue and mystery out of it, and there you have it. So I kind of like that it's so mysterious, it's beyond our comprehension and knowing for sure. But it would be nice to know, hey, faith aside, I know that I'm moving on into something else, and the whole question of mortality, will be there. Even though if someone tells you, hey, I know for a fact that you're moving on, you're still going to be afraid and apprehensive about, going beyond the veil. So before we move on, I kind of asked you a question about your books, because we want to talk about them. Please, if you're watching the show, come up with questions, put your questions in the chat. Missy's going to gather them up, and we're going to have Nicole answer them for you. So just ask away, she'll gather them up. That's why you're on here, Nicole. We want interaction and engagement. But while we're waiting on that, let's hear about your first book, what kind of inspired you to write it, why you wrote it, and what it's about.
Well, could I go back to the research methodology just very briefly?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You take the reins.
So So while you make some very valid points about applying scientific methodology and all of that, and one of my girlfriends is a chemist, and she's like, I am so tired of junk science and pseudoscience and all of that. But she and I had a conversation about yeah, actually what we do in investigation, we do apply it. We have a hypothesis and we test it all out and all of that, and we do get quantitative research or qualitative. Sorry.
We lost Nicole. That's not what you want to happen during a show. Let's see if we can get her back. That's never happened, so we're going to send... Missy, I'm going to call you back. Is that okay? Go ahead and unmute your mic, and I will call you back, okay? And go ahead and unmute it.
There.
I'm going to have to call you back because I lost her, okay? Well, let's just wait 1 minute. She may jump back onto the call, but if not, I'm going to have to call her back, okay?
Okay.
All right. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and hang up now and call her back. Sorry about that, folks. We had a little bit of technical difficulty. Let's see if we can call them back again real quick and continue the show. Okay, we got Missy back. Let's see if we get Nicole back. People have been having some funny internet issues, and I don't know why.
He lost internet connection. I lost internet connection.
Oh, Derek lost it?
No.
Okay, let me see if she can see the text.
Hey, are you guys there?
Yes, we are. Welcome back.
Woo!
We don't... Hey. I don't know what happened, but...
Somebody didn't like it.
Okay, well, you're back, and I know what you're talking about at the time. You were talking about how you were applying science
okay.
methodology.
So we are applying science. So, you have your hypothesis and you test it out and you come up with, your final report, It's just, we're getting qualitative data. We're not getting quantitative. We can't replicate it. We can't put numbers to it, except in the sense of how many people have seen it. But we are getting people who say many times, I've seen this, I've seen this, I've seen this, and they say it's similar and all of that. So there is that data. So it's not necessarily just junk or anything like that.
Right.
It goes back to our original point.
Right. Yeah? What they call anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, I try to stay away from that. Because if we're talking science, we're talking qualitative and quantitative. And if any of my students are online today, any of my participants, y'all have heard that story already. So,
all right. Well,
yeah. So
I will start using qualitative for you. I'll get on that bandwagon and we'll just run it into...
Well, the other word just makes it seem like it's trivial.
It's not, though. It's not trivial.
Yeah?
To me, it's not trivial, because I don't want to go off on a tangent, but real quick,
No.
I do a lot of near-death experience research, and it's like 100% anecdotal, right? Like, there's no way you can study that unless you're in the movie Flatliners. So you get all the data, you gather all the stories. They're not collaborating with each other by any means, and you start connecting the dots. What trends, what similarities, what's different, and you can line up. I mean, if you do the correct research and read the books and see the legit research behind it, there is something going on that is evidence. It is classified, like you said, as evidence, but it's like you said, you cannot replicate it, you cannot predict, understand the physics of it, so it doesn't really meld and apply the way they would like. But that's not going to stop us from doing it. That's
right. So to go back to your other question about my books, the very first book that I wrote that was related to the paranormal was called Haunted Central Indiana and Other Stories. And so it was just a collection of stories that I had about Central Indiana. And I think every one of my ghost books has included a story about where I've lived. So I even, in that first one, I put about the house that I grew up in. And so I really just wanted to get all of the all of the stories about Indiana that I had either personally been a part of or been on the fringes of. And so some of the places in there I've investigated, I've been a part of. And then, for example, one of my best friends, her house, I grew up in it. It used to be a hotel at one point, and they always used to hear footsteps running up and down the stairs. And so there were a lot of other things that happened as well. The house next door was haunted as well. And so I wanted to put those in there as it was kind of like a nostalgia childhood sort of thing.
Right. And that's really cool. I mean, you have, the tools there to tell the stories, to get them out there, and to allow other people to enjoy them. And I love, I love people who write books, who take the time to do all that hard work and put themselves out there to do it, because it's, it can be nerve-wracking to do. And it's, you have all the normal apprehensions of doing all that type of stuff because you're afraid that no one's going to be interested. You're afraid that your bubble of your dream is going to get bursted, and you may have to resort to other things you're not quite as passionate about. So hopefully it seemingly you have had success with your books, and you're still got the bug and the itch to do them, and people enjoy them. What's your bestseller? I want to know what your bestseller is, the most successful book you have.
Oh, wow. I'm trying to think, because we were crunching the numbers the other day, and I think actually my best-selling book is my book that's about my favorite ghost, but it's about her life. So it's not fiction; it's a nonfiction book about a ghost on one of our tours. The more I learned about her, the more that I wanted to, get to know her and to tell her story. She was her name is Dr. Helene Elise Herminia Kanabe, and
wow.
she was a doctor that was killed in 1911. She had her throat slit almost to the point of being, cut off.
Geez, so what location was this?
This was in Indianapolis, in what's now the Barton Center of Hope. It was apartments during her time.
All right, let's try to sell more of these books. Give us a quick taste.
Okay, so on October 23rd, 1911, Augusta Kanabe had a dream. She had a dream that there was a big black snake winding itself between her and her cousin, Dr. Helene Elise Herminia Kanabe.
You love saying that, don't you?
I do. It's one of those lyrical pieces of German I can find. But anyway, Augusta thought, well, I blew her off. I didn't have tea with her yesterday. I'll have tea with her today. And so she taught German. She went to school, and when she got to school, she got a phone call from Dr. Kanabe's assistant, Catherine, who said, "You need to come over. Something bad has happened to the doctor." And when Augusta got there, she found, her cousin dead. Well, she didn't call the police right away. They called doctors. The doctors couldn't do anything. Then they called the police. Then the doctors' wives came over because the doctors was off doing rounds and all that kind of stuff. And so the crime scene was pretty tainted in a way, but the police did not take her death seriously, even though she had two cuts. One went right to left, one went left to right, and it was done by a right-handed person. It was done with such precision that it missed the carotid artery. You have to be good to do that. Mm. There was no sign of a struggle except for one of her slippers out of place. And they thought that she had killed herself because she was either unhappy in love, she was a frustrated lesbian, she wasn't making a lot of money, all of these things that were fairly disproved. And there was a man that was put on trial. There were two men indicted. One man was put on trial, and they just couldn't get that elusive piece of evidence. They had witnesses saying that they saw him come out of that building at that time, and they had, character witnesses that were going to basically destroy him. And lo and behold, they couldn't find the character witnesses when it came time for the trial 2 years later. The guy who said, yes, I saw him. He was like, well, there's a lot of people that look like him. So I can't prove it, but I think there was a lot of payoff going on. Mm-hmm. And so this book has everything. It has, her struggle coming from Germany specifically to come here to be a doctor, because she couldn't be a doctor because she was a woman in Germany. And it's got her struggle, her triumphs. It's got a little bit of sex, a little bit of murder, a lot of mystery. And then the building that she died in is haunted by her.
Cool.
And she also haunts another building down the street.
So let's get into your experiences with this particular woman at this location.
I can say that I have not had enough experiences with her at all. She is my favorite ghost, and I would just absolutely love to see like her every day. We were allowed to go through the building when it was being rehabbed. It had been empty for quite a while, and the Salvation Army owned it, and they allowed us to go through with one of their members. And the first time we went in there, we did get an EVP in what was her office. When I was speaking in German and English, saying, are you here, Dr. Kanabe, and all of that, there was a female voice that said, it's terrible. Now, it also had been a nursing home, so I assume some people passed away in there. Maybe it wasn't her, didn't have a German accent. It could have been somebody else. But we watched with fascination as they restored this building. And she was actually going to be my dissertation topic. I have a bachelor's in digital media communication, a master's in adult ed, and then I have all my coursework except for my dissertation in adult education as well. And it got struck down, but while I was working on it, I went back to the building, and there was this big burly construction worker, kind of stereotypical. And he said, yeah, you can come back in and take some pictures. And he took us into his office in the middle of the room, and he said, I've seen her. And I was like, you've seen what? And she's like, that girl you're here to talk about. And he said, yeah, she used to give us fits in that room that was her office because it was a mess. And I said, yeah, she was a neat freak. He goes, yeah, as soon as we got drywall up and carpet down and I stopped leaving my stuff, like he had a bunch of stuff by the window that you could see all the time. He said, she settled down a little bit, but she would like move stuff around in there. And then she scared off one of our plumbers because what used to be her bedroom where she was found killed is now a bathroom, unfortunately. But there was a plumber fixing some fixtures down underneath of a sink. And he said he saw a woman come in a bright blue dress with big red poppies or some flower on it. And he didn't remember hearing the door. And then he looked at her and could see through her. And so he crawled out of there and did not come back. And when he said that, I really perked up because at the time it wasn't really well known, but one of the pieces of evidence from the second man that was indicted but not tried, he was accused of laundering a blue kimono with red poppies, which was her favorite thing to wear at home when she was by herself. And for him to have said that just kind of solidified it for me. And then it's got a lot of housing in it. And so people have said that they've heard her there as well. And wow. even back in when she died, she had mailed a letter the night that she died to a friend of hers in Marion, Indiana. And that woman said later that she had a dream that she had talked with Dr. Kanabe. And Dr. Kanabe gave her some song and dance saying, well, if you ask the inspector about the umbrella that was hanging on the stairway the day after I was killed, I was like, time out, man. You just need to tell me who killed you. Don't. So if I ever talk to her that way, she cut to the chase. All right, who did it? So, but yeah, that's been the extent of mine. We give tours and we go by there, and I try to leave flowers on her birthday and on her death date and all of that, and at the cemetery as well. And then the building down the street is called the Athenaeum Building, and it was a German community center, and she used to teach classes in there when she was when she taught medical school, and then when she was teaching for a gymnastics school as well that was housed in there for a time. And I've actually seen her in there. I've chased her elusively down the hallway once, and I could not catch up with her. And then when I was struggling to figure out whether I wanted to do bariatric surgery or not, we were in the part that's now Y. And I said, hey, Dr. Kanabe, if you're here, can you tell me what I should do about my problem? And only one of the exercise bikes came on. And at first I was like, does she want me to exercise? Because I've been doing this for 2 years, like religiously being a good girl. And I've just got too many health issues going on to get the weight off. And I went over and looked at it, and it was in German. It came up in German. The interface came up in German. It had los on it, which means go.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, all right. I didn't make my complete decision on that, but it was kind of interesting that did happen.
Yeah, I don't have an explanation for that.
It was just, it's cool.
It is. And the more we try to connect and we try to seek out, not only the spirits of people, but just trying to connect with their story, all the little details that surround their life and their death. You become enthralled, and you become, obsessed is not really the right word for it. It's almost like you need not only to solve the murder mystery, but you need to complete you feel like there's a message that, there's a reason why she still lingers. There's a reason why she haunts, and you feel like you need to facilitate and come to some conclusion. And what do you think that is possible? Do you think that's possible in this case with her, or do you think that is some perpetual thing that will probably endure for who knows when?
Yeah, I don't want to be a negative Nancy about it, but I kind of think it would be very difficult after this much time, because even though her blood soaked into the floor, part of the floor is still there, part of the floor is down in the basement. Okay, so we have her blood. I don't know what kind of evidence we could get out of that place that would be left of her, but her actual case file was lost in a flood in 1977.
Mm.
And there was a pillow that had a bloody fingerprint on it. Now, how are you going to prove that's anybody now? If you could get some DNA off of that, some of the guy's relatives still live in Indianapolis. We might be able to get a hit that way, but we don't even have that.
Mm. It's interesting. I always wonder, and I don't know if you wonder the same thing as I wonder, but is this her actual soul that we're experiencing, seeing, feeling, or is it some aspect of time, some temporal dimension bleeding and phasing into ours? It's really hard to tell, I think, sometimes, but it almost feels like there is some essence of yourself left behind when there's some injustice or some unfinished business. What is your theory and your take on this type of haunting in particular? What do you think is what it is? Is it spirit, or is it time? What is it?
Well, I think because she's interacted with us, I think, if you want to call it intelligent, I think that I don't think it's tied to a certain time period or anything like that. I just think that it's her there still. And I think that ghosts in general, they may or may not know that they're dead. If they know that they're dead, I think that they're transient, and I think that they can go anywhere. I mean, just look at Abraham Lincoln. He's supposed to haunt, the White House and one of the hotels in Indianapolis and our state house and then there's the Lincoln ghost train that everybody, goes out and tries to find too. And so I think that there's those types of hauntings. I think that there are also hauntings that are tied to events or times of year. And I think that people, or the ghosts, the spirits or whatever show up during those times. As far as being a soul, I don't know about soul, whatever word you want to use. I agree there is some essence left, because I do believe it's like me saying that, organic things hold vibrations of the past. So my haunted rocking chair holds the organic vibration of this older lady who used to sit in it. And so I do think people leave bits and pieces of them behind. And she, for me personally, she is an inspiration for me, because she is an educator, and some of the things in our lives parallel, some of them don't, but it's just very interesting how the more things change, the more they stay the same. And there are still some themes in her life that are very relevant today.
Right. Like seeing people being brought to justice for their murders.
Well, I've told my husband several times, if the two guys that because she used to joke with one of them, because one of them was an undertaker, and his name was Alonzo Ragsdale, and she used to joke with him that when she died, she would make sure he got the business. And sure enough, he did. He was also the executor of her estate. Unfortunately, he was appointed by her cousin, but and I think that there was a lot of missing information that should have been there, and it wasn't. And he got away with something, I think. But if I'm wrong in my thoughts, and in my book, I'm very impartial. I try to prove why certain rumors couldn't be true. But at the very end, if you read my author notes, then you get exactly what I think. And if I'm not right about it, then they must be sitting wherever they are in the cosmos laughing and saying, oh my God, she still believes that, you guys killed me.
That's
It really was
funny.
somebody else.
Right. Well, that's a very, very awesome story. I'm really interested in reading the book now, to be perfectly honest. But let's go over to Missy and see if she's got any questions, hopefully, for you gathered up. Missy, if you can hear me, do you have any questions prepared for Nicole?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
I can
can.
hear you.
Okay. Small Town Investigations wants to welcome Nicole to the show.
Okay.
Yahoo.
Scotty wants to know where the super chat is.
Super Chat was a YouTube feature that would allow you. Oh, he wants to know where it went. Well, we lost monetization. YouTube changed their criteria for what would allow YouTubers the Super Chat. So I did not have. Let's say it was like 400 some X amount of hour watch time last 12 months, so they took it from me. So now all we have is Patreon. So if you want to support us financially, go to patreon.com/support interface death. The link is in the description. You can donate $1 a month or however much you would like.
Okay, and then Sam had a few questions about the books, and her husband got on and answered them for her.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that was nice.
And then Scotty wanted you to say the German name 10 times with beer.
Well, I don't have a beer right now, but it would be good because one beer affects me like 3 since I had bariatric surgery, so it'd only take one. I don't think I could do it 10 times sober.
Right? Sam wants to know if you're writing a book now.
I am. I'm actually writing several books right now. So I have a book that I'm co-authoring with my husband about the ghosts of Hamilton County, Indiana. I'm also writing a book about haunted Ohio. So if my Ohio friends are on here, haha, you didn't even know it. And and then I'm also writing another book about where I grew up in Anderson, Indiana. I've got a whole slew of stories about that as well.
Okay. And then Scotty wants to know the period of Dr. Knab.
Dr. Knabe was born in Rügenwalder Germany. No, I cannot do that 10 times anyway. In 1875, and she moved to Indianapolis in 1896, and then she died somewhere between October 23rd and 24th in 1911.
Okay.
And now, and go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just for anybody who's going to look that up, Rügenwalder Munde is now in Poland. It's Darlowko, Poland. It's way up by the Baltic Sea.
Okay. And then Sam wants to know if her blood is still there.
Well, I have never seen her blood, but if they haven't taken up all the flooring, the last time we were in there, the original flooring was still in her room, and in the basement you could see that it was the original flooring, and it would have soaked into that because they made quite a bit of mention about that having been in there. So unless they took it up during the remodel, it's still there.
And then Richard wants to know if you've ever had a spirit try to attach to you.
Well, it depends in what way. There have been times where there's been physical contact. I've never felt that I've been like taken over in a trance and I'm a new person or anything like that. That sort of happened to my husband at the old jail inn in Bardstown, Kentucky. But for me, I've been touched, I've been poked, I've been pinched, scratched. So I have been, and I did go into a trance one time, but I don't remember anything about it. It wasn't like there was anything going on. I didn't even know I was in a trance until my husband hit my arm and several times, I guess, and said, what's going on? And that was in the Scottsburg Heritage Museum of History, I think is what it's called. I might have that wrong, but it's Scottsburg, Indiana. It's an old county home that's been turned into a history museum.
Okay. And then, of course, there were a few more questions that your husband got unanswered. What about Mannheim?
Your husband wants to ask that question.
Okay, yeah. Her husband asked that question. Yeah.
My husband's asking about Mannheim.
Yeah, his specific question is, what about Mannheim? Maybe someone mentioned it before, or maybe you mentioned it. I don't know.
I've got nothing on Mannheim except that his brothers were born there and his dad used to have bars for GIs there.
Oh, okay. Anything else,
He's
Missy?
talking to me.
Oh, he's talking to Derek.
Nope,
Okay.
I think that's it.
All right, Missy. Well, thank you. If we have any more questions, just unmute yourself and pop right in and say, "Hey, we have more questions."
Okay.
He's talking to me.
They're having a conversation in chat, which is perfectly fine. We advocate and allow that sort of thing. So, is there any particular books that you want to promote? I know you would want to promote all of them, but is there any like promotion you have going on? Are they available for Amazon? Pretty much plug all your books right now so we can get that out of the way.
Okay, so if you want to buy my books, you can either buy them through Amazon.com or you can buy them through unseenpress.com. I'm just going to be very honest. I make more money if you buy them through my website. Amazon takes a 60-40 split.
Oh my God! Don't do that, guys.
So yeah. So I get it because you get Prime shipping and all of that, but we're trying to get a little bit more competitive on our website. I currently have released two new books. I actually have a book that there's writing in it, but it's also a coloring book for adults. It's called Night Scares. And it's all about different types of, they're really wonderful sketches that you can color. And the other side has the history behind them. But it's for adults to color. And it's all about, the bride that gets playing hide and seek and she dies in the trunk. You got the monster under the bed. You've got the Wolfberdingers. You've got the werewolf of Mordbach, all sorts of stuff in there. And so beautiful, beautiful things for you guys to color. And then I have a new book that I just came out with last week that's called Betty Meets a Ghost. And it's because I wrote it because there have been a lot of people that have come to me and said, well, my child is very young and they say that they see a ghost. And sometimes it's hard for them to have conversations with their kids about it, not because they're afraid to, but because the child is young. And sometimes you can't figure out, is the child just kind of making this up because they've got a good imagination or something they saw on TV or whatever. And so the book is about Betty, whose grandmother has died, and her grandmother comes back and she tries to convince her mom that the ghost is real, and happiness ensues. But it's really meant to be read by the parent with the child to kind of get that conversation going, because if they're focused on something else or they can relate it to them, they're probably going to talk to you a little bit about it.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I have a game that's going to be coming out with it that's for children as well, where it has a house and a car and all that kind of stuff. And if they see a ghost in the house or something, there's going to be different chits that they can move around the board and say, well, this is what I saw here and all of that kind of stuff. So that's done. It's actually at the publisher, the printer. And so that'll be ready shortly as well.
I actually like that. That's a really cool idea. I can't think of any other thing that compares to that. Is there anything else out there like that as far as a game? I can't think of any.
I didn't see anything when I was kind of researching it. So, I hope I just have so many people. It's like, well, this would be a really good tool for them rather than just, they get my flavor, but what do they do when they leave me? So.
Right. There's, if it takes off, then of course people are going to copy it, but I hope they don't. I hope that, people can enjoy the original, game and you can be associated with that as much as possible. But we know how capitalism goes in this country.
Well, the sad truth is that you can't copyright a game. You can copyright the format.
Okay.
The fixed format, but the logic behind it, you can't copyright.
Yeah, that's understandable. I can agree with that, but hopefully that is successful and people enjoy that. I know my daughter, she's almost 13 and she's deeply interested in ghosts and stories and stuff like that. Of course, with me being who I am, and her grandmother coming along and telling her all this stuff and stories, from her childhood and stuff that we've encountered. But she would definitely love the coloring book with the story on back, the adult coloring book. She loves that sort of thing. So I might have a Christmas birthday idea for her.
Well, if you do, you can get it signed.
That is true. That's pretty cool. Missy, I noticed there was a couple more questions. Did you want to pop in with a few more? I seen that Scotty had a question, and maybe there was more.
Yes. Sam had a question. She said maybe an attachment. She wants to know if Nicole has had an attachment of some sort, or
I thought she answered that.
Well, that was like a possession.
Oh,
the other one.
Okay.
Yeah, there's varying degrees of attaching. So we have had things come home with us, and there hasn't been anything that's been like mean or anything like that. That's we've picked up on one of our tours or one of our travels or anything like that. But we have gotten in the habit, and we do tell our customers on the tours, and then when we go out and investigate places, we say, there's no free ride. You stay here. You can't come home with us, and that kind of thing. So. I think the worst attachment that ever happened was my daughter brought in some of her great grandmother's items into my house, and her great grandmother, this is my ex-husband's grandmother, she never liked me. And I remember she brought some things into my house, and I'm not going to deny my child the comfort that she wants, from her great grandmother's things. And so I was okay with that until, like the burner on my stove got turned on twice by itself. And
that's not good.
So yeah, that wasn't good. So I went around the house and I cleansed it, and we were going on vacation. And literally the day that we went on vacation, I went around the house and I said, if you're so concerned about, my daughter or my ex-husband or anything, your possessions or anything, I said, you just need to go back to your grandson's house or something, because you're not welcome here. And if you don't leave, I will make you leave. And so we came back, she was gone. And then my daughter reintroduced some more of her items into my house. And then she came back and did the same thing again. And I was like, oh, no, you're leaving now. You're leaving. So we saged our house, and it was all with, intent. And so, we saged everything that my daughter had too. So, yeah.
Okay. And then Scotty Fox wants to know what ITC device you use when investigating.
What ITC device? I'm not familiar. I feel a little stupid. I'm not familiar with ITC.
ITC stands for Instrumental Transcommunication. The earliest form of it would be like pendulums, dowsing rods. Then it went into Ouija boards. Okay. Now it's spirit boxes and other devices.
Okay, I got it. ITC in my day job means an installer technical. What is it? In installation technical communications. Yes. They're glorified installation people. So when I hear ITC, I was like, what? Okay. So we use a variety of things. We do have pendulums. We have, I try to do some automatic writing. I've not had a lot of success with that. I've gotten some gibberish, but that's about it. We also use dowsing rods. We use digital voice recorders. We try to use trigger objects. So, for example, we were in the Athenaeum Foundation building, and we were getting on the dowsing rods. We were asking yes, no questions, and there was supposedly a girl there, a small girl. The part of the building we were in was used for housing for immigrants that came over, and they would learn a trade, learn a craft, work in the restaurant downstairs, and then be released into the big bad world. And so I actually looked up, it's basically the German Mother Goose. It's called Struwwelpeter, but it's full of things like, a tailor cutting off a child's thumb and all that kind of stuff. So there's kind of an anti-Struwwelpeter group. And So anyway, I was reading some of it to her, and we were getting a lot more hits on the uh, the Gauss meter and a couple of the other items that we had with us that night. And then as soon as my husband came in, who's German, all of that went away. And as soon as he left again, she came right back. So apparently she had an issue with men. But we also use video cameras. We've had psychics that go out with us. I'm sensitive. I don't consider myself like super psychic. I can't look at you and say you're in grave danger, but I do trust my feelings quite a bit. And we do try to document all of that to see if we can find any emerging patterns.
Very cool.
And then Derek wants to know how you see Dr. Kanabi. Is she color? Is she white? Is she see-through?
When I saw her at the Athenaeum Foundation building, she was solid. She was in a plain, ordinary skirt and a long sleeve blouse with a high collar, like she would have been during her time period. I did not see any blood. Her head was attached. I saw her face briefly, and then I was actually being interviewed for TV, and I saw her behind the camera person, and she went into the room that had been her office for the school. She would give physicals and things like that to the kids, and I said, well, she just appeared behind you. And the person that was interviewing me said, well, go get her. And he took the camera in, and he was chasing after her too. And we didn't find her, but I did see her go into the room. I saw her come back out of the room, and then she disappeared. But other people have said that they've seen her on the stairway, this grand stairway in the building, and that she's solid. She's not gross looking or anything like that.
Interesting.
I think that was the last question we had, because we did have another question, but her husband didn't answer that one. So
Yahoo!
Thank
Tag
you.
team.
That is awesome that he has helped answering them. So, stab your phone to death. Slash your phone. Real quick before we wrap this up, Nicole, let us know about your walking ghost tours and everything else that you want to promote on the show while you're here.
Well, we have ghost tours in a variety of places around Indianapolis. We have Indianapolis, Westfield, Noblesville, and Anderson. Walking tours. We occasionally give bus tours. Occasionally, we will rent out a place. Like last year, we did Lizzie Borden's house, and we'll rent it out and say, hey, who wants to go? And then we get a group of people to go to those places. This year, we've already got them filled up, but we're going to Waverly, and then the Old Jailer's Inn again in Bardstown, and then we're going to go to a place called Whispers Estate in Mitchell, Indiana after that. So we're working on some other things as well, but we've got several different tours in Indianapolis. We're working on a couple of more. And then I would encourage you guys to go out and explore our Facebook page and our website and my author page and join in the conversation. And if anybody ever you have any questions about investigation and all that, we don't belong to a group. We're not affiliated with any group. We have enough drama between the two of us. So we just go out with like-minded people that are low drama. So, we're more than happy to help you with whatever, what kind of equipment do you use? What kind of lighting do you use? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you just shown a little bit of your intelligence when you just said that, because man, the Parafield sucks so bad. It's so crappy. I'm doing what I can, but I can't. It's bad, but I do relate to what you're saying, and I don't blame you one bit. But I want to thank you, Nicole, for coming on here. I know the hour goes by super fast.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
I could probably talk to you, I don't know, for hours, because I'm sure that there's a lot more stories you would love to tell, and I would find deeply interesting.
Happy to come back anytime.
You know what? That could be a possibility. I want to do round table shows to where I have maybe like a round table of authors, or a round table of just general investigators who go out and actually do investigating. Maybe not just the Indiana area, but maybe in this whole Rust Belt, Midwest to all the way up to the East Coast Rust Belt area, just to see if is this area really probably the most haunted area in the U.S.? Because I just feel, in the pit of my stomach, my intuition tells me that we're in the right spot. I mean, I'm in Southern Ohio, and you're in Indiana, so I just feel like there's just so much to draw from when it comes to experiencing things. Is it tied to history? Is it tied to the land? All sorts of interesting things. So I will definitely keep you in my contacts, and you may be hearing from me sometime again this year. But again, thank you for coming on.
You're most welcome.
And I enjoyed everything that you had to say, and I look forward to getting your, at least one of your books, if not all of them, eventually. I support everybody that comes on the show. I think it's very important that we support each other, and I am glad that the Carters gave me your information, and I was able to get a hold of you and come on the show and talk to us for a little bit.
I really appreciate it, and I just ditto to what you said.
All right, Nicole, I will let you go. I'm going. If you want to stay on the line, you can. But I'm going to switch over the screens. I'm going to shout out my patrons. I'm going to do a little bit of video promo at the end. But you know where to find me if you need me. Okay.
Yeah, I'll stay on the line for a few minutes.
All right, thank you. Well, there you have it, folks. Nicole Kobrowski. Her links are in the description. Her website. If you're going to buy her books, please buy them from her website. She gets more kickback from it, and that is what we want to happen for Nicole. Okay, we love Amazon, but like she said, she gets more of a kickback from her website. All of her social media links that she wants you to know about are in the description as well. Please support her. Go, link up with her and find out what's going on over there in Indiana. We are really digging into paranormal research and over in Indiana, so I'm glad to have her on the show to learn a little bit more about what's out there over there in that area. We're going to switch over here and start talking about our patrons. We have, slowly but surely we're getting more patrons, okay, guys? And I hate sounding like a broken record, okay? But like we were explaining to Scotty, the super chat for our live streams is taken away from Interface Death. So if you want to, give us any kind of financial support, go to patreon.com. The link is in the descriptions. It's in the cards of this video. $1 a month is all I ask. I mean, I use this analogy all the time. You pass a street musician, on the street, they're playing a little tune that you've heard a million times, but hey, you see that there must be falling on hard times. They're doing what they can. You drop $1 in the hat, you pat them on the back, you welcome. That's all I'm asking, okay? If you enjoy our content, you would like to support our group, if we got $1 for every stinking person who've watched our show or subscribe to this channel, we would be able to provide the greatest content possible. Okay, I have the knowledge and the tools to provide you guys with anything as far as production and live streams and just everything paranormal. That would be awesome. But you would be shouted out and supported on these shows. Matt Benton, Clay Borman, Matthew Jackson, and RJ Murphy have done that. Please head on over to patreon.com/support Interface Death and do that. Thank you guys very much for coming onto the show. Once again, we're starting up Necromancer. We're probably going to do it every other Wednesday. If you are watching and want to be interviewed on this show, please email me at justinbrown@interfacedeath.net or get a hold of me on social media, whatever works for you. Let me know if you want to be a guest. I have other live shows that I do on Facebook and other platforms. You guys are awesome. In 2 weeks, I am going to be interviewing another person that Nicole might be interested in. It's another paranormal author called J.C. Knight. That is not his real name, but he comes from a scientific and educational background, and he has wrote a book called Ghost Physics, where he applies newfound information in the science field and applies it to what ghosts are made out of, how they're able to manifest, and all kinds of cool things. So this is going to be a very cool guest. We're going to get nerdy and sciencey on this show, and it's going to be awesome. So tune in on the 14th for JC Knight's interview on the Necromancer live show podcast. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Go over to interfacedeath.net and check that out. Subscribe to that mailing list if you have not yet. Support us there. You guys have a good night. Stick around for the usual promos, and I will see you on the next one.